So I'm somebody who wants to be a game dev. Been wanting to for the past 2 years. I've been, it's what I take college classes for, refining my art and coding skills. And I realized this summer, I've never made like a full game. I've made little tiny games that I've made in a day. I've started big games that I then scrapped almost immediately. But this summer, some personal shit happened to me, which made me not have many activities to do. I have a little folder in my phone that's very small game ideas. Game ideas that I think I could do in a 48-hour time span. And I found this note. So the original idea for this game was a hero gets captured and has to wait around with the villain until they get rescued, slowly realizing that help is never coming. So that night, I drew up the 4 portraits of the main characters in the game, and these turned out so well that I decided to make it a full-scale game. But when you're starting off in tutorial hell as a game dev, most of the things that people teach you how to code are combat systems, shooting, platforming. So those were the type of games I made at the start, where there was lots of fighting. And I never finished these games because I don't care about fighting games. Like, the games I play at home are nothing like the games I was building. So yeah, no shit, I wasn't finishing any of my games because I didn't care about any of them. This time, I'm gonna make a game in a genre that I care about, which is the old visual novel / adventure / role-playing / multiple choice game. A big reason I've never done a game like this before is because coding dialogue systems is very difficult. I've tried in the past, and the ones that I could do were too simple for what I wanted to do, because I wanted the actions or the choices that you pick in the dialogue to actually affect the game code. And most of the dialogue tutorials were just displaying strings or text. But I'm somebody that I like to do everything on my own. I like to start from scratch. So it's like, okay, if I'm doing a dialogue system, I have to make it on my own from scratch. But I'm also not good enough at coding to make one at scratch, so I just couldn't make any games with dialogue systems. I actually want to make a game that I like. I'm gonna have to figure out a solution. For this game, I used something called the Dialogic plugin, and this basically does the dialogue system for you. You still have to write all the conversations and decide variables and whatnot, but it handles like 90% of the logic. I'm not gonna use it forever. Having a crutch isn't a bad thing. Like, I always think of using plugins as a crutch, but like when someone breaks their leg, you need crutches until you can walk. So I need this crutch until I'm good enough at coding to make my own dialogue system. So a big part of my childhood as a broke young child was scrolling on the depths of itch.io and finding all the visual novels and all the dating sims I could find, because that's just a genre that has always fascinated me. I'm not a particularly romantic person in real life. I don't read romance stuff and think, ooh, I wish that was me. I just find it fascinating to watch. Like an anthropologist. Sometimes, and I remember if I got a bad ending in these dating sim games, it would haunt me. I would have nightmares about it, because the bad endings in these dating sims always have really ominous text, and that was something I really wanted to recreate. I wanted to make a game that some middle school girl could stumble upon and potentially scar her for life. The next stage of development was me just fiddling around with Dialogic in Godot, trying to figure it out. It definitely is a little bit of a learning curve. This is a typewriter sound effect. Why does it sound like heavy breathing? This is horrifying. But not that hard, honestly. Absolutely would recommend. And then I got very basic code in. I got the just movement working and just figuring out this devlog's going to be a little bit interesting, because most of the time in this game was dedicated to making the art and writing. There's not that much code in this game. Obviously, if I wanted to do more advanced stuff, towards the end, the way I had set it up meant that audio was very hard to display. Oh god, I just realized that there's an audio feature in Dialogic that I forgot to do. Whoops. Well, game's done now. Spoilers, I finished it. Let me give you the pitch of how it turned out. So you play as a princess that has been captured. Princess is very much expecting her father to come and rescue you. So you spend 3 days at this castle. You can try to find an escape route. You can just try to wait it out. You can get to know the people in the castle. Maybe switch sides in the war, depending on the information you learn. Or you could try to kill the captors. Escape that way. So if that pitch sounded interesting, the game is free. It's in the description. It's on itch. Knock yourselves out. It's not a masterpiece of writing or anything, but it has taught me more about game dev than any coding class I've ever taken has. Big lesson I learned was time management, because things take a lot more time than you think they do. Now, coding was actually pretty easy in this I didn't hit any brick walls really while coding because there's just not that much code in the game. I did definitely have trouble with the save mechanic because I am stupid and still don't really understand how saving works in Godot. That's something I'm going to have to actually learn at some point. So that was the only thing where I just like put random lines of code in random places until it worked. And it does work, but I don't understand how the saving works. So I have the save mechanic that it'll save. It'll keep track of what endings you've unlocked because that's really important to me. So I want there to be a sense of progression. But the scale of the game had to be very much reduced. So originally the game was going to take place over 7 days, which I kind of wish I could have kept that, but it got reduced to 3 days, technically 2.5, and each day has like a daytime section and a nighttime section. And once I had gotten all the art done, each section of the game, like daytime or nighttime, took about 6 hours to write and put together. So each day represented 12 hours of work, not even counting the amount of time I spent on doing the artwork. So I could not do 7 days. So the plot line of the game is a little bit rushed because I just wish there were more days to develop the characters. A lot of subplots got dropped, but that's just, I either needed to reduce the scale of the game or the game just was not going to get finished. But the next part of development was making my lovely flowchart. I actually did try to just start writing the game, like the first scene, and then I realized I have no idea what the plot is. How am I going to start writing this if I don't have an outline? So the whole plot of this game came solely from the color palette. I made a really smart choice. I didn't realize how smart the choice was to have a very limited color palette. There's only 5 colors used in the game, and I picked a very Halloween-y autumn color palette solely because I hate summer and I'm trying to astral project myself into fall, mainly because I need to go back to school or else I will go insane. Bad times, but very productive times. If you're going to be miserable, you might as well be productive. Because I use this autumn color palette, so a big plot point of the game is that the kingdom that has captured the princess, the player, has been cursed with an eternal autumn, so all their crops are dead, that whole thing. The whole plot of the game would have not existed. So when I was making this flowchart, this is where the main structure of the game went, where I just decided how things are going to interact with each other. Because you can't just write a script for this game because it's not linear. So here's the lovely flowchart footage. I like to open up this flowchart every now and then just to admire it. Yeah, look at it go. Wowza. And it was during the flowchart phase where making the flowchart took so long. Like, when I started the flowchart, I was still planning on having it be 7 days. Once I had, realized how long it was taking to just flowchart this game, I was like, oh my god, how long is it going to take to actually write it? And after I made the flowchart, I was able to make a list of what art would be needed for this game. And it turned out to be a lot. Yeah, a lot of locations got cut or combined because each background took me 90 minutes to 2 hours to draw, and there's a nighttime and daytime version of each one. I'm pretty happy with how all these turned out. Using a limited color palette really helped speed up, because when I was originally designing the character portraits, this was the original one of the dungeon keeper, and I was just using whatever colors, and I think this looks like shit. I also hadn't done any digital art in a while. I basically just switched to acrylic for this past year. I originally made a schedule for the art, but this schedule was madness. And originally when I was scheduling this game, I originally wanted to finish this whole game in a week. Yeah, so the schedule of the game got switched from I'll finish it in 1 week to I'll finish it in 2 weeks to I'll finish it in a month. And I really wanted the title of this video to be mildly impressive. It's I cannot go over a month, because who wants to click on a video that says I finished a dating sim in 3.5 months? In my original schedule for this game, I dedicated 1 day to writing and 1 day to putting the game together and presumably bug testing. Writing takes a really long time, but I'll get to that later. Yeah, when I was designing the original character, it was kind of just me slamming some Pinterest reference photos together, which, this game is, I'm not charging money for this game, and I made it in a month. I'm not going to spend a bunch of time on the character designs. I'm really bad at naming characters. I intended to give these characters real names at some point, and then I just didn't. So if you're wondering why, if there's an artistic reason for them not being named, go and find one, because I don't have one. I've realized since I've played Baldur's Gate and stuff that I absolutely hate generic fantasy, where it's just what time period does your game take place in? Oh, medieval. It's just all so fucking the same and homogenous. And I've had that thought, and then I went ahead and made this game generic fantasy. I spent like a week doing all of the art, and that was me drawing for like 8 or 10 hours a day. I do like having unique pieces of art for everything in the game, but also at a larger scale, not a sustainable way to do this at all. And the only animation in this game is the princess's walk cycle. This walk cycle alone, I think that took about 2 hours to animate. I was planning on doing like some other little animations, but once I was technically done drawing art, I was not implementing anything extra. Once I finished drawing is when like the real development began. Dialogic is structured, and the way that this game is kind of non-linear, it makes a lot more sense for me to structure the actual game as I write. I'll put all the props in a scene in place and then write all the dialogue for it. And then once I finish writing the scene, I basically never have to touch that scene again. That scene is complete for the game. And then so I just tackle it scene by scene. So I completely finish a scene and then move on. So I'm not writing all the scenes at once, which was actually pretty good because I think if I wrote... But an issue with writing in Dialogic is that there's no spell check. My only way of spell check was to look at a word, and if it seemed a little wrong, like I misspelled it, I just put it into Notepad, and then I would correct it. But I didn't do that for every sentence, because I would have to copy-paste every single sentence. So if there are spelling mistakes, I'm sorry, I tried. Another issue with writing this game is that I haven't written anything. I've written some small stuff. I've written mainly like nonfiction. I haven't written stuff with a lot of dialogue in it. You only learn by doing. So I don't think the writing in this game is a masterpiece. There are definitely some moments, some lines that I do like, and I'm overall happy with the plot. I do think the character development is a little bit rushed, but that's just the nature of the time span I had to finish this game, and the fact that I actually wanted to finish this game. I'm so sick of having half-finished projects. I'm also, if you haven't picked up on my previous statement, I'm kind of uncomfortable writing romance. If you watched the VeggieTales video and listened to the fanfic I wrote, you'll see the only explicitly romantic scene is just one scene describing a very light kiss. By scene, I mean sentence, and then I immediately end the fic because I didn't want to do anything past that. So naturally, I decided to make a dating sim. You gotta learn by doing, man. And every one of my dream games has a dating mechanic, so I gotta learn it somehow. And I'll be better next time. I don't know, I feel like the only characters and that, I don't know. Originally, the advisor was my favorite because she has the most interesting plot details. Yeah, I sent this game, once I finished it, to my sister-in-law, and she said that the advisor reminded her of me, and the general reminded her of my brother. That's what I was afraid of, but it's whatever. It's done now. So yeah, if the romance seems very tame in this game, that's why. Yeah, there's not smut in this game. I'm so sorry. And while I was writing this game, to keep track of how many relationship points you had, I had a lovely Excel sheet. Ready for some sick Excel montage? Yeah, type in those numbers. Wow. This is so exciting. You think I'm being sarcastic? I'm not. I fucking love Excel. Yeah, this sheet turned out to be practically useless because the way I was counting it was not accurate to how a player would actually play it, and I had to change all of them later anyways, but, you know, thought that counts. I'm trying to figure out where all the time went. I feel like so the initial setup of the game was probably a week. So I'd gotten like maybe half of the art done by the first week. I finished the art the second week. And the next 2 weeks, I guess, were dedicated to writing. Yeah, writing takes a really, really long time. And I wasn't normally working 6 hours a day. By the end, I was. So once I had finished the writing, which I don't really have any footage of that because spoilers, and also I don't think you really want to just watch me type. But one of the last things I did was adding like cutscene art. So for certain moments in dialogue, I want there to be unique art that pops up. And I especially wanted these for the endings. There's like 20 of these, I think, and I drew them all in one day. It was also on the final day, or the final day of real development, but I just wanted to finish, so I just had tunnel vision where it's like nothing else matters, I just need to finish this all now. So I can't show you any of that art because, you know, spoilers, but I can show you. I use this 3D model program, I think it's called Just Sketch Me, to get some of the poses because I couldn't find good references for everything, and I wanted things to be at certain angles. So I can show you the 3D models. You can take your best guess at what might be happening. I can't even see them, I just know what one of them is. I implemented all the cutscene art, and since I was structuring the game as I wrote, basically all the triggers worked. Like there wasn't that much to put together. So then the game was technically finished. So I tried to do a playthrough, and it didn't work. It crashed so many times because just so many little stupid things. and I added the audio last, and adding audio like broke a ton of references because audio in Godot doesn't work how I want it to. And it's really, yeah, I wish I'd had audio in mind. I had started this game. There was gonna be more audio, but I just couldn't be fucked. That was just so low on the priority list, man. Played through the game, and I was able to weasel my way into an ending that didn't even play the correct ending, and the save mechanic wasn't working properly. I was like, all right, ship it. So I posted it on Itch, sent it to my sister-in-law, and she sent me a video, and it like fucking broke the second cutscene. So yeah, I took it down the next day. I had a final on Wednesday. Yeah, I was really trying to finish the game before I had to take that final. But that Thursday was the last day, so that whole day I spent like 9-ish hours bug testing. The way I bug tested, when I initially finished the game, I just did not want to bug test at all because I was so sick of looking at the game. But I took a day off, and that helped a lot. So I was able to kind of come back to the game with a pair of fresh eyes. And the way I bug tested was trying to get every single ending. And there's 15 different endings. So it took a while. And a lot of the times with the endings, I would only figure out what was wrong at the very end. And each run of the game took like 10 minutes. So I would just waste so much time because one little thing would be off, but I would have to replay the whole thing to just make sure it worked because most of the time it didn't work. So yeah, that took a while, but I was able to upload it the next day and it works because I almost didn't do proper bug testing, but in a way that's the most important part because I put so much work into this game, but no one's going to see it if it's crashing on the second screen. It's something that I just did not want to do. But once I was kind of into it, it wasn't that bad. It is a shame because it's like you have to make a bunch of choices to test out certain endings, which meant I had to be kind of engaged. So I couldn't just put shit on the background while I was bug testing. So I had to restart a lot because I kept just forgetting what ending I was even trying to go for. The save mechanic was being weird because I thought it worked for a while, but once I was bug testing and I was trying to get multiple endings, it would only keep track for the ending you had just finished and only saved your most recent ending. My scripts just became a nightmare because I just like did not give a shit anymore, so I have just these massive, inefficient scripts. And I mean, they aren't running on every frame or anything, and I don't notice it slowing the game down. Yeah, I'm not gonna say the writing's a masterpiece or anything, or it has the most revolutionary gameplay, but I finished it. And it's a type of game that I would actually want to play. And yeah, now I'm actually really excited to make the next one. I think that's about all I have to say. That's what we in the biz like to call good enough.